ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ। ਮੂੰਹ ਕੂਚਰੈ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਖਟ, ਪਿੰਗ ਗਿਰਨ ਚੜ ਜਾਏ। ਅੰਧ ਲਖੈ ਬਦਰੋ ਸੁਨੈ, ਜੋ ਕਾਲ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਾਏ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਗੋਬਿੰਦੇ ਮੁਕੰਦੇ ਉਦਾਰੇ ਅਪਾਰੇ, ਹਰੀਅੰ ਕਰੀਅੰ ਨਿਰਨਾਮੇ ਅਕਾਮੇ। ਗੋਬਿੰਦੇ ਮੁਕੰਦੇ ਉਦਾਰੇ ਅਪਾਰੇ, ਹਰੀਅੰ ਕਰੀਅੰ ਨਿਰਨਾਮੇ ਅਕਾਮੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। So today we're going to discuss about the 5 kosh. Maharaj explains about kosh. So kosh are like the sheath. So how a sword is kept in its cover, the sheath. Similar way, there are 5 kosh sheaths in this body. So the physical body, it is formed with the food we consume. They say we become what we eat. That's how the physical body is formed. And the 5 types of pran are in the pran sheath. So as previously discussed as well, that based upon where the wind is located in the body, the 5 names are given as per. One is pran, the breath, residing in the hirday, apan in the excretory area, vyan, that which is present in the whole body, saman, in navel area, that helps in the process of digestion. Udhan, in throat, due to which we speak. So same way, the pranmay kosh is when the breath resides in the pran sheath. And when the food enters the annamay sheath, that's how the physical body is formed. Manomay kosh, so that has 5 karam indriya. As we know, the karam indriya, the senses through which action happens. And the mind. So Manomay kosh has the 5 action senses plus the mind. Vigyanmay kosh, the sheath, is 5 Gyan Indriya and the intellect. The Gyan Indriya are the one from which we get the knowledge about our surroundings. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the skin. And the intellect is the one that deciphers about the things around us. So all this together collectively, when put into a sheath, is called Vigyanmay kosh. Anandamay kosh. So the causal body is the center of avidya. And what is avidya? Avidya is when the home goes towards outside. That is ashuddha home. But when it diverts towards inside, towards our true sarup, asal self, true self, then it becomes the shuddha home. So when the home is diverted towards inside, then this kosh is called Anandamay kosh, the Anandamay sheath. Now, how to know how are we separated this sheath? When we say we are not the body, same way, we are not this sheath too. When we have desire of something, then the mind creates image of it, of that item. And that creates a bit of happiness in the mind. Even if we haven't got that thing yet, just by thinking of it, we get a sense of happiness. And when we go to the shops to buy that thing, then we become more happy, just merely by looking at it. Even though if we haven't yet purchased it, we still feel that sense of happiness. This happiness is happening in the Anandamaya Kosh. And when we buy and eventually start using it, for instance, we buy a car, we look at the car, we feel happy. We think about buying it, we experience happiness. Or I'm going to buy this, so that gives a sense of happiness again. But when we start using it, we start driving our favorite car, and then we feel more happy. Eventually, by using that product, by using that car for a long time, we reaches a neutral state when we no longer feel happiness there. Now, what has changed? The thing is still there. You are also the same, but that happiness that you were experiencing before buying it, during the process, and while using it, that was happening in the Anandamaya Kosh. So that happiness was created in the Anandamaya sheath. It gets destroyed there itself. That which gets created and destroyed is not our true Sarup. Because our true Sarup is Sat Sarup, that always remains. There is no change in that. So that's how we know that we are not the Anandamaya Kosh too, because it's changing. Vigyanmaya Kosh, the 5 Gyan senses. Now, if anything happens to these senses, the person still remains. Example is, if someone loses their hands or eyesight, their home still remains. If there is a warrior who loses his hands, it doesn't mean he stops to exist. Because there is home, he will still consider himself as someone who's still there. There is still a presence there. If someone gets a skin burn, that person will say, oh, I got a skin burn. There is home there. Even if the skin is burned, he won't say he's the skin itself. So the home is not connected to the senses too, because the eye still exists without these senses. And also the intellect as well changes with age. So sometimes it gets better or it gets worse. How does it get worse? So if we indulge in material world, do drugs, the intellect is ruined. If we do Buri Sangat, the intellect gets ruined. But if one does good Sangat, they read good books, eat good food, then their intellect is improved. But eventually the intellect gets reduced or destroyed with age too. Sometimes it happens with dementia. But does that mean that person has stopped to exist? Because he still exists. So that's how I'm not even the Vigyanmaya sheath. I'm the knower of Anandamaya and the Vigyanmaya sheath. But I'm not the sheath itself. So Manomaya sheath has 5 action senses. If something happens to someone's hands or feet, or if one forgets something, it still means that, does that mean the person has stopped to exist? Or did that just thought disappear? It's the thought itself that's no longer there. A thought that thought, at one point, the person who thought this body, it doesn't exist, but the I is still present. This I am, the Atma, the knower, still remains. So therefore, I'm not the Manomaya Kosha as well. Another example of this is, if we hold our breath, we take a breath in, we hold it. Who's the knower of the breath? Don't we know that the breath is being held? And when the breathing is going on, Aren't we the one who's experiencing that bliss, the sukh of breath as well? We are that knower. That's how we know that we are not the pran too. We are not that breath as well. So in that process of breath, when it's going on, it's paused and it's released, I am the knower of all. So in that way, I'm not the pranmay sheath as well. Annamay kosh. So this body was formed due to our parents. But when this body was not created, the I was still present. When this body was created, I was still present there. When this body is growing or getting old, I'm still present. One day this body is going to get destroyed, but I will still remain. So I'm not the Anmay Kosh, not the physical body, not the causal or the subtle body, nor am I the 5 types of sheath. I am the knower of all these. I'm the one observing this dukh or sukh that's happening, which is the pure Atam Sarup. So Sukhdev Maharaj explains that these 5 sheaths resides in all in 3 types of body. So Kaviji says that actually it is from illusion only that we say these all sheets are separate. But the reality is there is only one. So we give different names to all these just so we can understand them well. But when one gets the understanding, then all they see is one. They also know that I'm still detached from them. I'm neither the sheath nor the body. I am the knower of the Anand. I am Atam Sarup. When I know about the Ananda too, then I remain in that Ananda Vastha, that state as well. Now there is a difference between the Sukh, the happiness, or the Anand. In English, the word bliss is used. But even that word bliss doesn't come close to the definition of Anand itself, because it gives an idea of that there is some kind of extreme happiness. So the actual meaning of Anand is that which has no beginning, no end, and it neither changes nor there is any increase or decrease in it. That is the state of Anand. But we know the Sukh is always either increasing or decreasing, and the Dukhs as well. Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad. So we can't be that as well, because that's always changing. So the equilibrium state, the Chotha Pad, the observer, is called as Anand. And when one becomes the observer of the 3 qualities, the one we discussed, Sato, Rajo, Tamo, then we become still in Atam Sarup. So Sikh says to Maharaj that you have explained about the physical body. Please explain what are the Sanchit Karam. It is the Sanchit Karam, the storage unit. So Sikh is doing Benti Maharaj. I wish to understand how the actions are formed, stored, and how are they destroyed. Maharaj says there are 3 types of actions. Sanchit action, Sanchit Karam, the stored ones. These are the actions done from all of our previous births up until now. And they have been stored in one place. Second type is prarbadh karam, action. The actions that are happening, that happened in the previous life. So these are the actions that have been collected from the storage unit in order to take birth, as in this body. And the sukh and the dukh that we experience in this body are due to the previous actions. The kriya mankaram, the present actions, these are the actions that we are doing right now through this body. The kriya man, the present actions, they then get accumulated in that storage unit, sanchit karam. When we have experienced all the previous actions in the body and completes the age cycle, then the actions that are remaining in the storage unit, we take some actions from there and then take another form. Then again, the previous actions are performed. So as long as we consider ourselves to be this body or the sheath, we will keep considering ourselves as the doer of the actions. The cycle of birth and death, it will keep repeating as long as we consider ourselves to be the doer. So Maharaj explained about the actions. Now Maharaj has explained, now we know that what was the cause of the very first birth. So ek akal rupa Paramatma from one form took many forms. And then he put a veil of tamogun, due to which we forgot our true sarup. And we started considering ourselves to be separate from Paramatma. When we considered ourselves to be separate, then we also consider ourselves to be a separate individual doer, that I am the doer. And when we did actions considering ourselves as a separate doer, then those actions became the reason for the cause of the next body. The actions we did as separate individual doer, they got accumulated into the storage again. So the actions done in one birth becomes the cause of being part of the cycle of reincarnation. Due to those stored actions, we experience sukh or dukh. The actions done in one form of body, including good or bad, both, they become the cause of the next body. Then one has to experience the results of that in the next body. So whatever actions we do, good or bad, we experience the result of it in the next body. But if Maharaj does kirpa sometimes, when one does bhakti, then they can experience all of those karam actions in one birth only. But if one does not walk on the path of bhakti, then they have to take many births in order to experience all the sukh and the dukh. So this body is obtained because of the previous actions, and the previous actions will continue forming the new actions. Whatever actions one has done in the past life, good or bad, it has left an impression on our mind, due to which we are doing our actions right now. Actually, we're not doing any new actions. We are just doing whatever the impression was left on the mind from the previous life. So if someone has done bhakti in previous life, then they keep doing bhakti again. If someone has done bad or poor actions, then they keep repeating them again. Unless and until one listens to Gurbani or comes in contact with Sadh Sangat or does vichar of Dharmic Granth with Mare Kirpa, until then they will keep indulging in the bad actions. So the Sangat of Gurbani is very important. If someone has done one extreme good action, then this kirpa happens that the wisdom gets understood. And then he walks on path of bhakti, by which that person eventually changes his action, his way of living. And eventually with bhakti, then in one of the births, the bhakti takes form of Atam Gyan. So Maharaj here explains about forms of life. So there is Andaj. So Andaj is the form of birth from egg, which is the birds, fish, snakes. Jaraj, the form of birth from womb, mammals, sharks, including us. Setaj, birth from bodily secretion, involving heat or sweat, like lice, microbes, bacteria, etc. Utpuj, the birth from earth, the soil or rocks. So these are the plants and the vegetation. Now, as per the Sanchit Karam, the stored actions, one has to take birth into these forms. So without Atam Gyan, this is how the actions are performed through these different forms of birth. Out of all the 8.4 million forms, human form is the only one where we can perform as well as experience the actions. But the remaining are known to, they only experience it. Why is that? Because they do not have the understanding. They are just experiencing it. Because in one of the births, when they had human birth, they did not practice Atam Gyan. And they experienced life from body perspective. So here's like types of karam, how it gets repeated, this circle. The storage unit from the Kriya Man Karam, previous actions resulting into the creating new actions, then they get stored again. And from again, it takes forms into new birth. It is a vicious cycle. Now, how to get out of this cycle? So Maharaj says, by accepting and practicing the wisdom that is Guru Roop itself. Even if one applies a tiny bit of wisdom, then we rise above this body. We become Atam Abhyasi rather than the Deha Abhyasi. We no longer consider ourselves to be this body. So we start practicing more to be in that Atam Avastha as the observer. Tu karta tu hua, mujme raha na hu. If something happens to this body, we no longer say that something has happened to me. We start practicing that something has happened to this body, but I'm the knower of it. I'm not this body. I know something is happening. And this is how one starts practicing and applying. So in this way, 8.4 million life forms are formed based upon previous actions. And sometimes because of the low actions, we have to experience a low form of life. And if in one of birth, one did many good actions such as worship, seva, charity, etc., then one becomes a devta in the heaven. Some becomes Indra and does Raj. They rule over the Indra lok. And when the good actions are finished, what happens then? Then they go into the other form of birth again in the cycle. Because they have completely experienced those good actions. Now we have to experience that, the remaining one. So the importance of human body is that the Jeev experiences Sukh and Dukh both in this form. He does both good and bad actions, and he can understand them as well. So based upon his actions, he takes next birth. So what kind of actions we should do that we don't take any form of body? Because as long as there is there is body, the Sukh and Dukh will keep happening. There is no day that has only Sukh in it or only Dukh. They both come together. The root cause of Sukh or Dukh is the physical body. And the cause of the physical body are the actions. And the cause of those actions is the Ashuddha Home, the separate identity, that I am separate to the whole universe or to whole actual Maharaj itself. The cause of Ashuddha Home is Agyanta, the lack of wisdom. And the cause of Agyanta is Hukam. Hukme andar sabko, bahar hukm na koi. Nanak hukme je bujhe, ta home kahe na koi. So the Gyan happens as per Hukam too. When the Gyan happens, then one rises above the actions and the physical body. When one has let go of the attachment to the physical body too, then no further actions are created. And then no further body is created as well. Because he's no longer the doer of those actions. Now, without contemplating what is the truth and what's not, without practicing Atam Gyan, it keeps becoming the reason for birth and death. As long as one is attached to the body and keeps doing the actions as the body, then he keeps taking birth in different life forms. So if one did good actions, then he resides in different lok, Brahmalok, Shiv lok, Indrapuri. And when one has finished like experience all the good actions, then he's left with the bad or the poor actions. And to experience those, he takes another form of body, which is called as a hell, to experience the dukh. But when the levels of both good or bad actions are equal, we get the human body. So we should really contemplate how fortunate we are to have this form. But if by taking this form too, we keep remaining attached to it, then again we will keep on getting stuck in the circle of good or bad. And will take form of in other births to experience those. So Maharaj, therefore, it is very important to take guidance from Gurbani, to read Granth and do Sadh Sangat. This should be the main purpose only. Sukhdev Maharaj says that whatever the story the director has made the writer write, so will the chief perform as per. The director being Akal Purakh Maharaj, he himself made He himself took form of Brahma. Brahmaji is the writer who writes, and Jeev as actors, they perform like that as per the script. One can't deny any type of dukh or sukh. As long as it is not written that we will do vichar of Atam Gyan, then we can't even do that. If it is written in the story to recite Naam, only then we will do so. No matter how many times we recite Naam. It is because it is the story of Akal Purakh Maharaj. We did not write it. It is as per his hukam only. And we are playing as per. He himself is playing. So don't even keep ankar that I am Naam Abhyasi or I'm doing Seva. It was written in our previous actions that how many times we are meant to do it or not to do it. So always remain grateful that Maharaj has blessed us with this opportunity, Naam Japandi. When we remain humble and grateful, then Maharaj does Vyanta Kirpa. That even if one recites Vaheguru, even if once, Vaheguru, it can give countless results. What happens when we do Naam? Because when we do Naam Simran, the mind becomes still and one gets darshan of Atma. After Atma darshan, one gets the wisdom and becomes one with Paramatma. Then no further actions are performed. When no actions are performed, then no further body will be required to experience them. And thus we do not go into the cycle of birth and death. And we become one with the form, with the truth. Now, when we are in state of, when we are during the day, when we are not sleeping, we gain the knowledge of the world through our senses and we perform actions as per. Whatever thought comes into the mind, we perform actions as per. Whatever actions we do during the waking state, we experience the same throughout the dream. When we have the dream, it is the actions that we have gained the knowledge through our senses. Now, it's not necessary that those dreams are about this life only. Sometimes the dream comes in based on the actions performed in our previous life. Or anything that is stored in that storage unit, it takes the form of dream and it's shown there. Because in the previous life too, when we were awake, we stored them. And when we are in deep sleep, that's the moment when we are very close to Atma, extremely close. Because in that deep sleep, there is no sukh, there is no dukh. There is only observation happening. But because when we wake up, then we know that there was no dream. There is someone telling us that as well, that today you had no dream. I didn't know where I was. That is the Atma that is giving the information. But when we wake up again, we get broken from that peace that we were in that Atamavastha, and then we get indulged in the three Rajo, Tamo, Sato again. And we forget that Ananda of Atma, and we don't practice it. In all the three states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, we are the knower of them. But it is the Atma that is the knower, that tells us about these three states. It is the Atma that is the doer, makes this body talk. It is the one speaking, one listening. Kathata bhakta sunta soye. The body is a jad roop. The jad is which cannot move from one place to another. So the Atma in the consciousness form makes it move. So we should practice being Atam Sarup and not as the body. And Gurbani teaches us how to become this Atam Abhyasi. Maharaj says, in this world, from birth to death, one has to experience three types of actions. First, results of own desires. If there is a desire, we experience the result of it. Second, society's desire. Whatever other desires they have. For example, if our parents tell us to do something, we perform the action as per their desire. Third, the desire of others, such as applying for a job. So when we apply for a job, we are told to perform such and such task. So that is the desire of our employer, and we perform the task as per. That's why in Bhakti Marg 2, Maharaj says to do Nishkam Bhakti. Whatever you do, give it to the Guru. Even if you're doing your job, even if your parents have said something to do something, in Maharaj, you're the one who's doing it. So three types of actions are happening because of the Kriya Mankaram. But the Kriya Mankaram are happening due to the previous actions. The actions we are doing right now are happening because of the previous actions, because it left an impression on the mind. And because we thought we are the mind, we kept repeating them. So a foolish person does not know this. He thinks he's the one who's the doer. So he plans like this, that if I do this, then this will happen. If I don't do this, then this will happen. He thinks the result of his actions are in his control. He thinks if I work this much, then I'll have this much money in my bank account. I'll save more. I'll do this. But doesn't the money keep increasing and decreasing? There is always fluctuation. There is no end to that. Whatever is written as per previous actions will happen. If as per previous actions, it is written that one had to experience sukh or dukh of it, then it has happened. I have not done anything. It just happened. Whatever the director has asked the writer to write in the story, so does the character play as it is. The person who understands this is known as Gyani. But a fool thinks he is the director of his own character. If he thinks I am the doer of the previous actions too, then he becomes doer of the present actions too. Because he's still thinking that I'm the one who did it. He's still attached to those actions as well and to the physical body. So, and this is how it keeps on getting stored in the storage unit, and the cycle keeps on repeating. Mare Kirpa, next they will discuss about how to break the cycle in further. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ